The great Scottish sports person, Bill Shankly, had this to say about soccer. Some people believe football is a matter of life and death. He said, I can assure you, it's much more important than that. Sort of sums up how some in this country feel about hockey. We are a sensitive group, no doubt, when it comes to people making changes to the game or doing anything with the game. That's partly why it's so difficult to be the commish. Gary Bettman, commissioner of the National Hockey League. All right, so not everything he's tried has worked out, but there has been a lot of stuff. The NHL business is healthier than it's ever been, and Gary is a big reason for that one. And last year, despite the lockout and the predictions of fan backlash, attendance and TV ratings were up. But there are some outstanding issues. They got to deal with concussions, a litany of rule changes, and of course the upcoming Olympic Winter Games, which just might be the last ever for the NHL. I'll ask him. Gary is on his way. Please welcome back to the program our friend Gary Bettman.
Good to see you. How are you?
Good to be with you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Congratulations. Season is underway.
Yes.
How do you feel?
Great.
So, question.
Yes.
What made you decide to let the Maple Leafs into the playoffs last year?
I think they decided that on their own.
You sure did. What are you most excited about for this new season?
Obviously, starting on time. But we started last season, obviously under circumstances that weren't terrific, but we ended with a spectacular season. Right. And we think this has got all the indications of being a super exciting, competitive, fun season.
So I know your years removed. You were a hockey fan. You were a team fan of somebody growing up, and now that was years ago on. Do you pick a rooting interest, not team, but a story you want to root for?
First, that the officials don't make a mistake. That's my rooting interest every night.
Lots of disappointment, Gary.
But
I'm kidding.
Boy, you're on a roll today.
I'm kidding.
No, you spent too much time in the States this summer.
I watch a lot of hockey, man. I watch a lot of hockey.
No, I think what I really focus on is how exciting a game is. In Toronto, it's probably bad to talk about Game 7 of the first round last year, but that or even Game 6 of the final, where it is so unpredictable, so exciting, so this is why you play the game. That's what I love. When stuff like that happens, not without regard to who wins or loses, but when it's that unpredictable, that intense, that exciting, that's what makes the game
it's just
really
this
good.
idea that not even the greatest players in the world have any idea what's going to happen in the next 45 seconds.
Yeah, it's great.
One thing we do so well is connect to these players, especially in sports. We often throw around the word hero an awful lot. And I mean, they're heroes, small H heroes in some respects, but now with the You Can Play campaign, pro athletes can actually be heroes for their community by doing this sort of stuff. Where are we at with that?
Well, we were the first sports league to undertake such an initiative. For people in the audience and viewers, You Can Play is our anti-homophobic initiative to make sure that people, no matter what their orientation, can be comfortable playing our game.
The conversation about Russia and Sochi is their position towards homosexuality. I mean...
We obviously condemn it. The players ultimately, want to play because the right message is that to go and say this is a wrong policy. The LGBT community in Russia doesn't want to boycott of the Olympics. If anything, this is heightening an ill-conceived policy by the Russian government.
Yeah, I think it's an incredibly important opportunity, and the team should play. I think it would be awesome. You guys may already have discussed this. We have the flags on helmets in the United States and Canada, both countries. Little rainbow flag would be an unbelievable statement.
That's really up to Hockey Canada and the other various federations. Again, we're just invited guests to the Olympics. We shut down and let the players go, and it should be a good tournament, and hopefully the Russian hospitality isn't such that people feel bad about having been there.
On the surface, we go, the NHL Olympians make sense. Is it an easy decision for you guys?
No, there are a lot of people who don't think it makes sense, and it's not an easy decision. We wind up breaking up the flow of our season, disrupting our season at a time, particularly in the United States, where the NFL goes away, so it's really our time. It breaks the momentum, it breaks the flow and continuity. But even more than that, from a competitive standpoint, some teams, all the players are going to go on a 2-week vacation and come back rested, and other NHL teams may send 6, 10, 12 players who may come back a little more tired and a little banged up. Weigh that against going to the Olympics, which is a big deal, but when you do it in a time zone that's 9 hours ahead of the East Coast of North America, you're looking at games at 4 in the morning till, I don't know, 2 in the afternoon. That's not exactly prime time exposure. Now, having said that, our players love representing their countries. Our sport probably has the best history and tradition of the North American sports of being engaged in international competition. So that's why we go on balance, but it's not like, oh, this is great, there's no downside to it.
In one way, you took so much flack for trying to keep Phoenix alive.
I did?
Yeah, you sure did, didn't you?
I must have missed that.
Oh, yeah. So much flack, and now that Phoenix is stabilized to a degree, I mean, do you feel vindicated?
Well, it's not about vindication.
Oh, but you're a human being, right? So you must, like, you took
Thank you for saying that.
You took a lot.
Well, you noticed.
Listen, many hockey fans, and I'll say this on the record, and I get grief for it, many hockey fans will give you grief in this country, and I don't, because I do think, I agree with Don Cherry, you're the reason why hockey stayed in Calgary and Edmonton. You're the reason why it may have left in Winnipeg, but it's back in Winnipeg. And
it wasn't my reason that I left.
Right,
but
there was no owner, right? So it's, but we have, so I have no thing with that, but you take so much grief. I know that you're good at handling it, but there's got to be a point where you're like, come on.
No, because when you do what I do day in and day out, and this is true probably of politicians, commissioners of other sports, anybody who runs a business, you sometimes have to do what you think is right, even though it requires short-term pain to make the long-term right decisions.
And do you listen to sports talk radio? Do you hear what goes on there?
Sometimes.
And what do you make of all these sources and insiders and all that stuff?
Well, it's what we discussed before with blogging and Twitter. There's stuff that gets out there that takes on a life of its own, and it becomes fact when it's not. And so people are entitled to opinions, and that's great, and people are entitled to voice their opinion, but just doesn't mean that just because somebody says something that it's true.
Stick around more with the Commissioner, Gary Bettman, right after this. Back here on the program, we got the Commissioner of the National Hockey League, Gary Bettman's here. Of course, the season's already started. Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, big deal. Gary and I have just finished the deal that I'm going to pay him for the hockey rights. He hasn't, no, right? But I have $5 that I will give you for the CBC rights. But here's what I did special for you. I had them put hockey on the back.
Right. What other country has hockey on its money?
That's what I'm talking about.
Actually, do you have a credit card? You're going to have to do better than that.
No, dude, I work at CBC. This is I need a friend discount here. That's what I need. Oh, man.
Hockey Night in Canada, one of the all-time great institutions.
Yeah.
60 years long, it may be, if not the longest, one of the longest-running series in the history of television.
Listen, that's how I watched hockey. If you didn't have cable, you watched it for free. It was incredible.
Except you watch it black and white with a dial TV.
Yeah, our dial would break off, and we'd have pliers. Seriously, if someone.
Now?
Yeah, and now? Well, Gary, now I'm doing all right. So,
I kind of figured that was the case.
But Sealy is stepping down. Any interest?
So I heard.
Yeah, any
no,
interest?
I like where I am.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Officially? I have to ask you. I want to ask you.
Officially, I like where I am. I'm not going anywhere. Although some people might not be happy to hear that, but, you know, too bad.
The jersey tuck rule. Explain to me the jersey tuck rule.
Well, it's something that the managers, general managers wanted. It's a safety issue. Right. I mean, you don't want equipment exposed because somebody could run into it with their face or with an eye or something. Same thing with elbow pads.
Is this illegal? Would this be a legal version? That's legal, right? I have a collar, though. I'm trying to dress it up. Is that a legal uniform?
Not exactly.
How about this one here? This seems like with a hoodie. It's cold in Alberta.
It is. It's interesting.
How about this one here? I think this is kind of the piece de resistance. Well, that is yeah. You can't unsee that, Gary.
I'm not. Yeah, no, that's a bad visual. I don't think that was designed for that purpose.
It probably wasn't. All right, time for anthropology. I'm going to rapid fire some questions towards you, all right?
Uh-oh.
And you tell me what you think is true. Half the questions, it doesn't matter what you say, Gary, but the other half, indicative of your personality.
Wow. How do I know which is which?
You'll have to pick that up.
Oh.
One terrible thing that's been said about you is closest to the truth.
I don't focus on what's being said about me, good or bad. I've always believed if they write good things, you're never as good as they say, and if they write bad things, they've never been as bad as you say. Most of the stuff I think that's written about me is in the context of people not really knowing me.
Who gets an NHL team first, Seattle, Markham, or Berlin?
Beats me. That's a very good question.
What, is there...
Probably Berlin is a little far afield right now.
Could there be a European division?
You know, at some point...
I mean, the KHL's expanding, right?
Well, we'll see how much success they have.
If you heard your house was robbed and there was nobody of your family inside, what would be the one thing you were most concerned about losing?
Actually, if nobody from my family were there, I wouldn't care about anything else there.
Nothing else?
I'm not that kind of material guy. If your family's okay, everything else you can deal with.
Congratulations on the launch of the season, getting it on time. That's amazing.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Mr. National Hockey League, Gary Bettman, everybody. We'll be right back.